Alright, 4A GZE car is back. So the owner of this car is getting ready to prep this to keep for the long term and use as his weekend and track car. One of the biggest things was this car had a clutch that the engagement point was really high, and it was like on or off like suddenly, so almost no ability for modulation, which made this really difficult to drive on the street. So we have here a 200mm 16 valve Toda Flywheel from Battle Garage. The car already had ARP flywheel bolts, so I just cleaned up and then re-lubed and retorqued to ARP instructions, and then I always reference mark after I torque these type of bolts. Alright, so we are going to put an Exedy stage 1 in this car. This is an organic based disc, but you can see like the metallic fibers inside, so this will still hold the power of this GZE powered car. You can see the dampener springs are pretty beefy in this guy, but it's still a sprung clutch and it's still full face. For this sort of application, I highly recommend this. Battle Garage also carries a ACT clutch that I also recommend, and I run in my personal car with the J160. I've also run that ACT disc in a W58 4AG car before, but both that ACT and this Exedy Stage 1 Sport I highly recommend. So let's see what clutch came out of this car and some interesting findings in that old clutch. Alright, here's the old clutch and flywheel combination. This looks to be an Exedy Stage 2, and let's see some interesting things we found. Cool, let's check out what this old clutch looks like. Alright, if you guys notice, really interesting, this clutch disc is still good. This thing's got plenty of life in it. But unfortunately, if you guys can see the surfaces of these two guys, you can clearly see this is grooved like a record player, and it's got this step right there. Same thing, unfortunately, we found this is a Toda flywheel, but same thing. There's this thing's really heavily grooved, plus got this big step right there. So unfortunately, this guy's not going to be able to be machinable, and then this is a lost cause as well. So I thought this was interesting because I've never used or seen a Exedy Stage 2 in the long term, but it looks like this compound similar to a lot of high performance cars where the brake pad material is actually stronger than the rotor material, so the pads will actually wear down the rotors, which looks exactly like what we have here. So today this trans will go back in with the Exedy Stage 1. This should be a much more compliant clutch setup for this car and still be able to hold the power. One common mistake people make is to over clutch the car, so too much clutch for the car. I would highly not recommend for your even lightly modified 4A. For over clutching a car can actually cause wear on both the drivetrain and the engine components, because if you imagine, all that shock has to go either back here or back this way. So in this case, either shocking the crank and the rest of the engine, or back here and from the transmission back. All that shock load goes all the way back. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. This customer should actually he actually plans to be at the August 22nd event you can see the Autohaus car at. So August 22nd, if you end up being in the area, Mazda Laguna Seca, we're gonna have at least 3 or 4 Corollas there. So yeah, love for you to join us, and love to say hi to you guys in person. Thanks again, you guys.